G'day Bomber fans, we have notched up back-to-back wins following up a Dreamtime thriller with a fairly routine drubbing of the wooden spoon favourites West Coast. It was boring, it wasn't pretty, but it's the job done effectively. Before I start and get into this review, get your votes in down below for the best player of the match, 3-2-1 Brownlow style, Bomber players only, and subscribe to the channel to be a part of the Everything Essendon community. We are on the cusp of 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. Before the game started, there was obviously news of a late withdrawal. Dylan Shield couldn't get up. Nick Bryan came in for his first game of the year, which was what we all wanted to see. He's been great in the VFL, and the Eagles had a few players back. They had Elliot Yeo, Shannon Hearn, and Tom Barrass return, three of their finest veterans, but still their lineup was far from perfect, far from competitive even. And the game started as everybody thought it would. We kicked 3 quick goals. We had all the play. They were traffic cones, really. It was about as grim as it could look for a West Coast fan, but they responded, which I think is important. I never wanted us to go out and win by 150 points against an injury-riddled team that weren't competitive. I wanted a bit of a challenge to keep us on our toes, and I guess you could say we kinda got one. Adam Simpson had switched the magnets around to no avail really, but he had Barrass and Rotham, their finest defenders, playing up forward with Oscar Allen as, I guess, more targets up there. He had Ruben Jinby playing down in defence before he was moved on to Zach Merritt. These were, I guess, confusing move-arounds more than anything, but it kept us guessing a tad. But these weren't really what I was worried about. More than anything, we saw the Eagles add genuine scoreboard pressure early in the game, along with pressure on the ball. They were much hotter than last week against the Hawks. They allowed Hawthorn to walk it out of defence. We didn't always have that luxury. So we only led by 10 at quarter time and 24 points at halftime, which against any team wouldn't be cause for concern. But again, this is a reserve side we were playing, and at times they had the game in control. They really slowed it down for us. There was a stat that showed we played on far less than they did. We had the game moving far slower than they did at times, so credit to them. They made it difficult early, but as the game went along, they just had no answers. They didn't have the avenues to goal that we had. Oscar Allen was the only target up there consistently scoring, and has been all year. It's why they could only manage 2 goals after half time, and we managed 6. We were just the better team, not even playing better, just the better side on the night. And despite us winning every single quarter, the last term was probably the only time for the night where I felt the game was truly in our control the whole time, which would be worrying if we weren't winning easily anyways. I think we went in at about 90% intensity, which would have been an issue going up against any other team in the league, but West Coast, it didn't really matter too much. So how did the Essendon Bombers win this game of footy? It's a pretty silly question against the Eagles, but I will talk about the individual aspects anyway so we can know what to do in the future against poor teams. But I will start by saying, for the 90th time, their list right now is shocking. The injury list looks better, if we are being frank. We obviously had more ways to score. They relied heavily on Oscar Allen, and why wouldn't you? He is a star of the game, kicking bags at a horrible club. He kicked 4 of their 6 goals for the night. When it wasn't coming down his way, it looked easy for us to defend, which is both credit to our defence, which was on top all night, and an example of how poor their team is going forward. It's why they tried to put Barrass and Rotham up there for more options. We were much cleaner with ball in hand. We found options inside 50 with ease. They mostly found us with their entries. We don't get a lot of the ball inside our 50 compared to better teams. In fact, we actually had less inside 50 entries than the Eagles. We let our defence deal with repeat entries because it's good enough to, and then we kill them on the way back. But against the Eagles, it was just not even a contest with inside 50 efficiency. We were so much cleaner transitioning through the ground and in the forward line. We put the ball in better areas. If it came to ground, we were positioned better to deal with it. They just weren't up to it. I should say both teams were inaccurate in front of goals. We had some sitters, they had some sitters. It could have been a bigger win if it wasn't for some bad conversion, but Eagles fans may say the same going their way. It could have been a smaller loss if they kicked straight, so both teams were poor in this regard. I said in my match preview that I would love for us to have a big uncontested mark tally like we did against Richmond. Well, we did, but so did the Eagles. We both managed over 100, which shows how the game went. It was slow kick-to-kick footy. When it was on the ground, there was heat, but it wasn't on the ground much, and with an uncontested marking game and a tally this even, you can trust the better equipped team to be leading on the scoreboard, and we have better players with ball in hand. So the game being played like this, although harder to score freely from, was better suited to us for the win. All it meant is that they didn't lose by more than they would have if it was a faster game of footy. I should mention more marking stats because it tells a story. For starters, we had 19 intercept marks. I think they had 6. That is both because of how poor they used the ball and how well we set up, but also it's because they played with Barrass and Rotham out of position for portions of the game, which takes away a big advantage for them in the intercept marking column. But also we dominated contested marks. They took 7, we had 17. Draper down the line was a worry for them, so to Wiedemann. They took 3 each, I believe, and again, that's just personnel. I don't think we would have a tally this high against a team like Collingwood or Brisbane the way we played last night. The stats don't really tell the full story of the game. For starters, we had 6 goals from defensive chains, even though for a lot of the game we struggled to get it moving from there. We also scored a lot from stoppages, even though we had the same amount of clearances for the game as the Eagles. We were more damaging with ours, something I'm glad about because we've had a few games this year where we have dominated the clearance column but to no avail on the scoreboard. And really, it was just a professional win. We travelled over, we did what we needed to do, and now we get to go home and relax for a week. It was a necessary victory and a handy little percentage boost as well. It wasn't pretty, but the Eagles made it that way to help with the scoreboard. We absorbed their pressure and style of play and came out on top. Just a simple game that needed to be won. But there are obviously some negatives, of course, and they are individual players. I harped on about the individual players using this game as a confidence booster in the preview, but Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody had, I reckon, his worst game for the season. He just really struggled with the pace, which sucks because I thought he put some good games together a few weeks ago, so he might need a rest in the VFL to help him catch a breather. There is a silver lining with this though, because we had Wiedemann and Tip and Woody goalless for the game, but still managed a 50-point win, almost kicking triple figures. Again, it shows how many ways we can kick big scores in 2023. We have a lot of different players popping up for goals, which is great. I also want to say that I love Massimo D'Ambrosio as a sub. I think he is our super sub. He always plays better in small patches late in games. Even with injuries, I would love him to stay as our mainstay tactical substitution. He has been the best for us in that role all year. But there really isn't that much to talk about. It was a simple win. Everybody knew we would win. We shouldn't be too proud of it. We should be happy with it. Nothing pretty about the win, but it's 4 points. Don't go criticizing the boys for not winning by more. We are in the 8, and that is because of this victory. But anyway, it's time for votes. Remember to leave yours in down below. It's a tough one with a game this one-sided. Lots of different performers. I have gone with Mason Redman for 1 vote. Another great defensive performance. A defensive attacking performance as well. I've given our captain, Zach Merritt, 2 votes. He was yet again terrific. But 3 votes. Nick Martin, that is his best game in the red and black, which is saying something because he had kicked 5 goals and had almost 30 on debut. But this was a more complete wingman performance. He covered the most ground for our team, and it shows because he not only had the equal most inside 50s, but the second most rebound 50s. He is a magnificent, hardworking wingman, so 3 votes deservedly to the young man. Some players unlucky to miss out on votes. I really wanted to include Jordan Ridley, who was terrific. I hope he gets a lot of votes from you guys because he deserves at least 1. I thought Sam Draper was influential. I really loved what Jai Menzies offered, so too Ben Hobbs. Hobbs has been terrific since coming back to the side and signing a new deal. Caldwell, Langford, Stringer, McGrath, and Snelling are all great, and Dyson Heppel yet again proving he deserves a spot in the team every week. I am probably missing some others, but that is the end of a pretty boring video, let's be real. Bomber fans, if you want smooth nuts like me and a generally well-groomed and smelling body, head over to manscaped.com, enter in the discount code EverythingEssendon20 after buying whatever the bloody hell you want, and you can save 20% on your next order plus free shipping. Cheers, Dons fans.